All right. Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode number 5 of Evolve and Elevate with Erica. We are here with you once again on this wonderful Monday evening, and we thank you so much for joining us. And of course, again, I have with me one of my most favorite people in the world, Alicia Johnson. So, welcome. My name is Erica Bishop, host of this wonderful broadcast and the creator of Evolve and Elevate with Erica, as well as Empowered to Prosper Coaching and Consulting. When I help people navigate through their emotions so they can live their best life abundantly through setting appropriate boundaries and communicating effectively. And I'm going to take this moment and turn it over to Alicia so she can introduce herself to you.
Yay! So I am Alicia Johnson, the creator of the 1212 community, and the 1212 community is dedicated to helping everyone who chooses to learn how to change their lives 3 hours at a time. We believe that there are 12 hours for God, 12 hours for man, and we do this through a myriad of ways, one of being journaling for transformation, understanding the power of your life path, and most recently, understanding the power of provision. So we do all of the spiritual stuff. So that is who I am.
Awesome, awesome. So we thank you so much for being here with us this evening. So if you have not been a part of this broadcast over the last couple of weeks, I would ask that you please go back. We premiered on Juneteenth, June the
Yep.
19th, and we have been going ever since, and it has been some dynamic conversation. So we are still in the vein of self awareness. So I'm an emotional intelligence coach. I teach emotional intelligence from the perspective of the spirit. Now, for those of you who have heard emotional intelligence, I'm pretty sure you've heard it in corporate America. I've taught it for over 25 years, but the one thing that I began to understand that there's a spiritual side to everything. And when I began to adopt these principles in the spirit, my life truly began to change. So with that, I teach it from the biblical perspective of understanding emotional intelligence. And many of you who have read the word, Jesus Christ himself was one of the most emotional intelligent people you could ever have as an example. He was not confused in his divinity nor his humanity, and he knew how to navigate through all of the emotions for his disciples and all the drama that they kept up during the time that he walked the earth. So I teach it from that particular perspective. But tonight we're going to continue to carry the conversation talking about dysfunction. But this particular subject, we're going to talk about uncovering dysfunction in the family. I'm a firm believer that as you grow and as you heal, you begin to uncover some things that you thought was normal, that you found out was actually dysfunctional. And as you begin to peel back the layers of your life and heal, there's some things that sometimes within the family you like, uh-oh, we really got a problem. I don't want to carry this on within the family. So
Mhm.
I always start with a question to get us going. When we think about parenting, growing up, siblings, and all the different dynamics when it comes to family. So my first question is, how do you remember that your family expressed emotions as a child?
Hmm. How do I remember that my family expressed emotions as a child? I think that the most emotion that I experienced was like from my grandmother. And my mother and father, they were just kind of they didn't have a lot of emotions like towards each other. They were so involved in just rearing the kid. You got to do this, you got to do that, you got to do this, you got to do that. But Big Mama was the one that showed the emotion. You knew when she was happy, you knew when she was sad, you knew when she was happy with you knew when she was disappointed with you knew. And so that's how I gauged a lot of my that's how I got a lot of my direction as to if I was doing things good or bad based on her emotions. And actually, my family used my grandmother as the gauge because we didn't want to do anything to make Big Mama sad or make Big Mama upset. So, you don't want me to tell your big mama you did this. You don't want me. So you would act better in school. You would, because it was just something about that. Because I just knew, like, my parents, if I got in trouble, a spanking was coming. Like, that was it. Like, that was, you gonna get put on punishment, you were gonna do, but there wasn't a lot of emotion there. It wasn't like, oh, I don't want to make my mother sad, I don't want to make my daddy upset. So I hope that answered your question, but that's like where I started to kind of gauge the emotions.
And the reason I ask that is because as children, our personalities, our understanding of how to act, react is pretty much shaped until we're about the age of 6. So
Mm-hmm.
everything in our environment, our personality traits is either taught or caught. It's one or the other. Just being in the environment that we're in.
Mm-hmm.
So how do you think that shaped your emotions as you started going into adulthood and even how you parent your children?
I was a mess. I was an absolute mess because Big Mama was very emotional and everything. I gauged like how I should react to people and situations based on how she reacted. So, for example, when that's how I began to understand like favorites. You have like my sister, there is no doubt in anybody's mind amongst all the grandkids, my sister was the favorite because my grandmother dictated that. And so I never forget one year my sister came home from college and we had been staying at Big Mama's house, like spending the night and stuff with her. And Big Mama pushed me to the side as soon as Melissa pulled up in the driveway. My baby, my baby. I was like, oh, okay. And so it was like all of the focus was on her. And so that kind of helped me to kind of understand that you can have favorites. She loved us all, don't get me wrong, like Big Mama had a special place with everybody. And also relationships, like she and my granddaddy, like they were a team when they needed to be, but they would also fight like cats and dogs. Like they would, I never forget one weekend they got into it because they each had that coffee cups. She put hers on one side of the sink, he put his on the other side of the sink. They got into an argument and her cup got broken.
Oh,
And all I remember, there was a phone call. We jumped in the car. We got to the house, and there was a there was a hole in the door. Like it shot. It went through the front door, through the storm door, glass everywhere. And they were fussing and cussing and this. And then Monday morning, we get home from school because we used to go to her house, and she's rocking in her chair, reading her Bible. Plugged up the hole in the door with some double mint gum. Swept up the sitting there, no glass in the door, like it's right. And I'm sitting up here like, this is weird. Like, did we not just have this thing? But I learned that you fight with your spouse and then you make up and you just don't discuss it and you keep moving on. And that was very damaging because there was no healing there. It was the
right.
fight and then it was the cleanup and then you go on with life. And it was just so those are the types of things that kind of shaped the way that I dealt with relationships. So it was very dysfunctional. It was a mess. It was a mess.
But it was our normal life. We didn't know
Right.
anything was wrong with it until we began to see other people and how they reacted. And, God forbid when the Cosby Show finally hit the airways and you looking at, oh, this is what family's supposed to be doing. So just to kind of set the atmosphere again as people are coming in, and we thank you all for being here with us tonight. Please tag, please share. please invite someone to be a part of this conversation. So we're talking about dysfunction in the family. So just to kind of set the tone, for me, my family dynamic was completely different. So it was me, my mother, my grandmother, my aunt, my great grandmother, and no men.
Oh, wow.
So when you talk about emotions, honey, they was flying back and forth like war missiles. You never knew what was gonna happen. We could go from on a Sunday afternoon, just getting out of church, go from what do you want for dinner all the way to you make me sick. I don't want to talk to you no more. I mean, it would just go from 0 to 60 out of nowhere. And it was one of those things where, as women, the sarcasm, the fussing, the arguing, you hurt my feelings, I don't want to talk to you, and back and forth and the bickering. There was no male to regulate,
Mm-hmm.
and no one else that had a different demeanor. Now, mind you, we all love our families. We do. We have great families. We love everybody. My great grandmother, I call her Tutters.
Mm-hmm.
We'll get in a whole nother story about how she got the name. But everybody called her Tutters. That was my nickname for her. My grandmother was the type of person, and now I understand she was going through menopause. Now I understand she was going through menopause. But I remember as a little girl, being in the kitchen, grandmama was cooking, Tutters was cooking, and all of a sudden dishes started flying and hitting the wall. And it was like, what happened? Like, how did we get here? It was like somebody said something and dishes got to flying. Stuff was breaking up everywhere. But she loved everybody. She did what she was supposed to do. But if you set off and made her mad, you might want to run. Okay? You might want to run. And, it was one of those things that I grew up. I have a brother who's 19 years younger than me. So I pretty much grew up as a single child. So the sharing, it was like if you had an argument, you go to your separate corners and come back out when you feel like it. There wasn't a let's sit down and reason together. That wasn't let's talk about it, let's calm down. It was more so shut up, don't talk to me. Those type of things was said in the house, stayed in the house. Don't you take our business outside, no matter how bad it was. And I remember my grandmother, my mom worked a lot. My aunt took care of me as well. And I remember this gentleman my grandmother was dating had made her mad. And he come knocking on the door. He called her Liz. Her name was Elizabeth, but he called her Lisbeth. Lisbeth. She's like, go on now, don't bother me. Lisbeth. She was like, I don't want to talk to you. He steady knocking on the door. She steady in the kitchen boiling some grits. Needless to say, long story short, it was not a good night for him. Okay? So, when you think about all these different dynamics, I was very shut off with my emotions. I love yous. I didn't hear those a lot. I don't remember a lot of hugs, maybe from my grandmother, but not from my mom. And I think it's because my mother and my aunt saw a lot of trauma growing up, because unfortunately my grandmother had been married 4 times. And all of her husbands had been abusive. So it shapes all these different things in your life. And I really didn't know how bad it was until I got married. Me and my husband are in the kitchen, and I'm washing dishes. And he's, how you take a cup of water and you flick it on somebody just to play? I almost knocked him out.
Oh my God.
I thought he was coming for me. I reacted. I didn't know what had happened. I almost knocked him out. And I was like, don't do that. And he was like, oh my God, I had never seen this side of you. I said, well, I didn't know what you were about to do. and you don't realize these things until you become an adult.
Right.
So now with your children, here you are married, now you have children. What are some of those inner vows that you made as a child or even as a teenager that you said you will never do? And then you found yourself doing it as a parent and as an adult.
Mm. I said I would never tell my kids what they couldn't do. Like I would always, whatever they wanted to do, I would support them. I would, explore with them and all the honey. That's what I said. But I realized like early on the same things that my mom did with me, and this is where I began to learn the lack mentality that I had. Like my kids would want certain things, and it was like, we can't afford that.
Mm-hmm.
That's too much.
Mm-hmm.
We're not doing that. We gotta, you and I have a son and a daughter. Y'all need to split that. Y'all need to. There was no real legit reason for it. It was just that conditioning. And once I started to realize what I was doing, I had to like a lot of the things, everything that I said that I hated from my childhood that I wouldn't do with kids when I had them, I started to do it. And it was exhausting because it wasn't me. I was mimicking what I saw. And until I started to take time to learn my parenting style, I was just, I was a mess. I was exhausted. I was constantly comparing my parenting to other parents, looking outside for clues like, how do you navigate this? How do you do that? And so, I pretty much at some point touched on everything that I said I wouldn't do. Everything, everything. Spanking my kids. I
Mm-hmm.
ain't gonna never spank my something, honey. Sometimes it was easier just to pop them and keep moving. In church, I used to hate when I used to get popped in church. Like you be sitting there, you just get popped in the mouth, and you just get. And it was so embarrassing. And you know how you under your breath, I want you to die. I hate you, mama. And then you like, what you saying? I'm never gonna do this. Honey, I understood. Like you said, like you don't understand until you start going through that stuff. I had to really, one of the exercises that we do in our community is look at your birth certificate.
Wow.
When I looked at my birth certificate to see how young my mom was, I was
Mm-hmm.
like, I'm happy I made it out alive.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Because I was much older when I
Mm-hmm.
had my kids. And what my mom was going through at that age, I was like, oh my gosh. Thank you, Jesus. Thank you
Mm-hmm.
for the clarity. And I
Mm-hmm.
really had to let my mom off the hook. Both of my parents. Because
De-
they didn't know.
definitely.
They did not know. So yeah, I did everything that I said I wasn't gonna do. Everything.
I recently got a copy of my birth certificate again, and this is the first time I cried
Mm.
because my mom was 21.
Oh my God.
My dad's name was not on the birth certificate, but I
Mm-hmm.
know the story now as to
Mm-hmm.
why he wasn't.
Mm-hmm.
And I cried because when I got married and had a child, I got married at 25. I had my son at 26, and I was completely terrified.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, I don't know how to do this. I don't know how these children gonna come out. Lord, you're gonna have to help me because I'm here. I am, and I could imagine what my mother was going through at 21
Mm-hmm.
and a single parent.
And
So,
during that time period.
and during that time period. And I remember myself at 21, how I felt about my life in school, trying, and she was in college, she was trying to work and raise a baby. And it was you learn how to give grace after you healed, you learn how to give grace
Mm-hmm.
because you understand that they could only work with what they had. these types of conversations, they weren't out there for our families to talk about how to raise your children um, with certain parenting styles. It was enough just to make it through the day.
Mm-hmm.
It was enough just to be able to keep your children from, well, it's the same now, hoping that everybody makes it home safely. It's not that much
Amen.
different.
Amen.
But what I also understood, for me, it was I found myself being the parent that yelled a lot. That was my atmosphere. And I found myself being the one, a lot of the snapbacks, clapbacks, a lot. And when I began to notice the impact I was having on my children, because sometimes parents would just drop something on you real quick and keep it moving. They don't even look back. It was just like boom, and you just had to take it. If your face fell off or whatever it was, you just had to deal with it. They didn't even look back. They just say bop, and you just kept it moving.
Mm-hmm.
And I began to see the impact that it was making to my children, and I was like, I'm vexing my own children.
Right.
And the word says, don't provoke your children to wrath. And
Mm-hmm.
I remember the times that I was angry
Mm-hmm.
with my mother or my grandmother or my aunt. I mean, just brooding with anger over something that really wasn't that serious, but I was so angry. And we have
Mm-hmm.
to think, well, how angry have our children been at us?
Oh my God. My God.
And for someone that has an estranged relationship, you begin to see a turn and a shift if you, especially if you had a close relationship with your children. And
Mm.
some people think, well, it's not normal to have a close relationship with your children. Because I remember the first time my mom said, "I'm not your friend, I'm your mother." So it's like, you have to have boundaries as a parent. Yes, you do. And there
Mm-hmm.
are different parenting styles. There's the permissive parenting style. There's a dismissive parenting style. There's the coaching parenting style, and then you have the disapproving parenting style.
Mm-hmm.
And we can get into that in a moment. But when you think about how we've impacted our children,
Mm-mm. My God.
have you ever had an opportunity when a child or your adult child or whenever they came around to tell you how they were impacted negatively by something you did?
Mm. Mm. We got the rest. How many more minutes we got on here? Oh my God. So this whole process is very humbling because when you understand your assignment as a parent, you understand the power of forgiveness and you give yourself grace and mercy and you extend yourself the opportunity to grow in the presence of your children.
Hmm. That part.
Everything changes in the
That part.
presence of your children. So they need a good, if you have been in a dysfunctional environment with your children and your children don't like you or your children, there's anger there. You have to be willing to face the scenario, admit your part, admit their part, and understand God's part.
Hmm.
And I think for us, this was very powerful because it trickles down. So don't put everything on your kid. Like, this is just a bad kid. This kid just, mm-mm. They are a product of the environment in which they live.
Yes, ma'am. All day.
They have, I mean, children, they're individuals, they make their own decisions, but at the end of the day, this is why a lot of people are afraid when their kids go out because they don't know how
What?
well the lessons took. You know what I'm saying? Like, and when God began to
Yes.
deal with me, God was like, you're getting ready to see how deeply those seeds were planted.
Hmm.
And what happened was that once Mike and I faced the fact that we together were damaging our family unit. It didn't
Yes.
have anything to do with the generation. I mean, there's a place for generational curses and all of that stuff. But you've got to stop right where you are and identify the role that you're playing in the mess.
Mm-hmm.
And so once Mike and I identified what we were doing, we had to come together and work on us. Now, this is the kicker. Once we healed, then we together as a united front had to go back and collect our children because
Yes.
we were messing them up.
Yes.
Our son more so than our daughter. Our son was angry. So much so that we had to get the courts involved. That's how angry. That's a deep-seated anger.
Mm-hmm.
That's the anger where you are afraid to sleep at night angry.
Mm-hmm.
That is an anger where you are, where did I go wrong as a parent angry?
Mm-hmm.
And what God began to show me is that as deep as that anger is, the love is just as deep.
Yes.
But you have got to traverse this terrain in order to get to the other side.
Mm-hmm.
Most people don't want to do that work to get to the other side because there is so much damage that needs to be corrected that it can be exhausting.
Mm-hmm.
And this is why I consistently teach, if you don't give up, heaven won't give up.
Mm-hmm.
Our son was so angry with us that there was an incident where, honey, he called the police on me.
Woo! Woo!
On me. I'll never forget, things erupted in the house. And he grabbed like my husband's laptop. He grabbed like the things that he knew were important to us. Like laptops, cell phones, and my husband had like one of those little like stun gun, those little things you carry with you.
Mm-hmm.
And I never forget my son had all of this stuff and he just wanted to hurt us as bad as he was hurting. So he took everything that he knew and he was just going to like destroy it.
Mm-hmm.
So I ran out of the house. He ran out of the house and I had the cell phone and he grabbed it from me. And no sooner than we got outside, so he's got the little thing like trying to stun. I was like, oh my God, our neighbor, it was a mess. The next thing I know, he's on the phone with 911. He is cussing and fussing, and it was ugly. And he called the police. He sounded like the worst victim ever on this side of Maryland. Oh my God, my mommy's trying to kill me. Help me. I'm just like, oh, are you serious? So the cops come like 5 deep. They come 5 deep and they're in front of my house. And I'm like, God, this is crazy.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a part of me that was embarrassed. There was a part of me that was wondering, is this process even worth it? And there was a part of me that was like, sometimes you just have to take it as a loss and keep moving.
Mm-hmm.
And God was like, no. Listen to everything that is, sometimes when you're trying to heal and you're trying to get to that place, you have to listen in between the words.
Yes.
And it wasn't so much what he was saying, it was what he wasn't saying. And God was like, if you allow me to guide you through this process and you don't give up, everything you need is going to be on the other side. And what God told me in that moment is that God said, you would rather for me to break him than for the world to break him.
Ooh.
So a lot of times when we're trying to get into that place of healing the family, healing our relationship with our kids, we want to cushion the fall. And God was like, don't cushion a thing. Because when I break him, I'm going to break him in love. If the world breaks him, the world is going to break him to destroy him.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
And so for parents that are going through with their children, the key is to allow God to heal you first
Yes.
so that you have the wherewithal, you have the discernment, you have everything that you need, because you don't want to try to heal your children from guilt. You don't want to try to heal your children out of fear. You don't want to have to heal your children out of comparison. You want your children to heal in spirit and truth.
Mm-hmm.
But that's only going to come when you do the work first. So
Correct.
Mike and I had to do our part. So if you have to heal with the father of your child, the mother of your child, whatever it is that you have to do that first and then go back and get your children.
Mm-hmm.
Because your children are brutally honest.
What you say, child?
You're going to try to teach them, you need to forgive me. You need to do this. Well, you ain't talking to my daddy. You
Ah,
ain't talking to you talking about forgiveness. You ain't talking to my grandmother. You ain't doing this. You cannot expect your children to do any more than you are willing to do.
let me tell you, Lord, God have mercy. Okay. Whew. So, as I was on my healing, have been on my healing journey, the Lord told me that I need to give my children amnesty day.
Mm.
I said, what is amnesty day? He was like, this is the day that you give them to say whatever they want with respect, but to be honest. And you cannot bring it back up. You know how parents, how we'll carry stuff and hold it in our pocket and use it later. He said, you cannot bring it back up.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I'm give you two dynamics that happened, what happened before this. I was talking with a friend of mine, and I thought I had been healed from it. And this is just a transparent conversation. I had two abortions before I got married in my younger teenage years, okay? And I had been molested at 12. So, it's a lot that goes with that.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And I was talking with a friend of mine, and she was sharing with me how she had a child at a young age, and she was so glad that she didn't abort the child and the purpose of her daughter. And the guilt came back up.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I cried so hard that my eyes had swollen shut
Oh man.
because I still had not forgiven myself.
Mm-hmm.
And I was walking around with the unforgiveness. So you have unforgiveness for yourself packed on top of trauma underneath, unforgiveness on top, and other stuff that's packed on top of that. So you got all these layers of stuff, and you're trying to parent as a single parent, and I had just gone through a divorce. Child, you talking about a hot mess. Okay. And then you're trying to cover it up and make it look cute, and you just a glorified hot mess.
Mm-hmm.
So I shared that with my children. When you talk about the healing part and them having to grow with it, some people be like, well, that's none of their business. But you have to also let your children know you're a human,
Right.
and that you made mistakes,
Mm-hmm.
which balances you out
Mm-hmm.
from presenting yourself as if you never did anything wrong.
Mm-hmm.
Not that what they doing should be okay, but you're more able to teach them the lesson that, let me be honest with you. I experienced this, so I want to share it with you. So long story short, I gave them amnesty day. And I told them what they could do. And they was like, Mom, you sure? Because, I don't want you to come back. And I said, no, no, no. As long as you don't get so far, you don't get disrespectful, but you can say it how you feel it, how you want it. I want you to get it out. So they asked some questions. I shared some things. They asked about the relationship with their dad. How did that work? And sometimes you don't realize your children see more than what you think.
Mm-hmm.
Because they were sharing stuff with me that I thought I was shielding them from as a parent when we were going through the divorce. They were sharing stuff with me that I didn't think that they had caught on to it or knew about.
Mm-hmm.
And a couple of things that they said, and this is the one that hurt the most.
Mm.
When you say being brutally honest,
Mm-hmm.
Mom, you don't show up sometimes when we need you to.
Mm.
And I was like, what you mean?
Mm-hmm.
You'll say you're going to do something, and then we don't believe you because you always change your mind and say that you don't have time.
Mm. Mm.
When I say I feel like I have been cut like 5 different ways,
Mm.
because you thinking I'm working, I'm providing, I'm doing, I'm this and I'm that,
Mm-hmm.
and it's something, but they see it differently. Yeah, they
Mm-hmm.
see the groceries coming in the house, but they don't see the 80 hours you work for it to get there.
Mm-hmm.
They don't, but they wanted the time, they wanted the attention, but I was using everything else because I was so deep into my dysfunction and my hurt and my pain. I was using work
Mm.
as a mechanism to get through it, but I wasn't spending time and giving what I needed to give to my children.
Mm-hmm.
And when they read me up one side and down the other, to your point, you have to own your part
Mm-hmm.
and even go as far as to apologize. Don't make no excuses. Own it and apologize. You are correct.
Mm-hmm.
I did not. And I am sorry. I allowed this to get in front of. I allowed my pain to be more prevalent than being present with you.
Mm-hmm. My God.
And what that did was it allowed them to have an open door to share.
Mm-hmm.
Because this was around about they were 11 and 12. Right before they really start getting into them teenage years. The
Mm-hmm.
curve is coming.
Mm-hmm.
And this was around about 11 and 12. And here they are now, 23 and 24, and we talk about any and everything.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Yep. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I
Any,
think that's a beautiful part as a parent when you graduate to that level.
mm-hmm,
It's because parenting is a process.
mm-hmm,
And I think that once everyone learns their role, it
mm-hmm,
makes it easier to grow.
mm-hmm,
It makes it easier because where my kids were when they were younger, I've grown, they've grown. So the relationship has grown. And now, like, as we get older, and we laugh because we're getting older and they're getting older. And we have to understand that as we evolve, as we age, they're going to become the decision makers.
correct.
And so we're very cognizant of the relationship because we're watching like certain dynamics in the lives of some of our other family members. And we like, oh, that's dangerous right there. Cause one day that little girl, that little boy, they gonna be taking care of and
Or
they
not.
gonna or not. It's like, Mama, Wednesday is Jello Day. I hope they
I hope they feed you
I
well.
hope they feed you well. And it's like those are the things you have to think about as you are growing and evolving. Your relationships matter
They do.
with your children, and that's why watching the dynamics of our father with us the dynamics and that, like, we are, thank God, we are, my siblings and I, we're emotionally intelligent enough to know that a lot of the things that my father did, he just did not have, like you say, didn't have the capacity
Mhm.
to do better. And so, but there's some people, some family members that are like holding on to stuff. Well, look, that's them. They did this. They brought this on themselves. Good luck to you. And the situation, as far as aging and all of those things, does not bode well.
Mm-mm.
Like, you got to think about this stuff now,
You do.
and not in a way that is manipulative, just in an organic progression that life changes.
It does.
And it's going to happen to them too when they have children. You know, it's like you've got to learn how to evolve accordingly.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Forgiveness is required for parenting. We
Of
don't
course.
think that because we think that I'm the parent, you the child. Do what I say, not as I do, but that does not work. That's dysfunctional.
Mm-mm.
That's completely dysfunctional. And what
Mm-hmm.
happened was by me going through my healing process, and the children, as you say, you capture them and they go through their process. It also allowed me to co-parent differently with their father.
Mm.
Because what happens is, especially for people who have been through a divorce, or you're not with the parents, father or mother, and you've had a disagreement, that has nothing to do with them.
Mm-hmm.
And how you impact your children through your arguments and trying to put the children in the middle and all this other kind of stuff, they don't need that stress. And it forced me and who's my ex-husband to sit down and be like, look, we have to show them love either way.
Mm-hmm.
There is no putting them in the middle. Let's agree on how we're going to parent them as co-parents when they come to your house or when they with mine.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not to there was none of this. I need this much custody. I'm expecting you to be there because you're the father.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not gonna. You can see them anytime you want them because they're yours. I'm not
Mm-hmm.
gonna. We're not gonna fight over who gonna have them when.
Mm-hmm.
It's just about making sure that we both have the right parental boundaries for them, so that there's no confusion there. But it allowed us to co-parent differently, so they didn't have to deal with the stress. Well, mama did this and daddy did that, and it also took out the good cop, bad cop scenario
Mm-hmm.
with the parenting as well, because I said before you make a big decision, let's talk about it and make sure that we're on the same accord
Mm-hmm.
as we're doing this.
Mm-hmm.
And it allowed them to be healthier. Now, did
Mm-hmm.
they still have some things that they may not have shared? Yes, they did. Since they've gotten older, they've shared a lot more
Mm-hmm.
because they have a greater level of context and
Mm-hmm.
understanding as they've gotten older. But when you think about siblings, I didn't have that opportunity because my brother was 6 when I got married.
Mm-hmm.
So we're just now really getting to know it because we haven't lived in the same city in 20 some odd years. So he just moved back to South Carolina. So growing up with your siblings,
Mm-hmm.
what were the dynamics of that relationship?
Mm. I think, like, my siblings, we all got along extremely well. I mean, like, my little brother, my little brother was annoying at times and stuff like that, but as siblings, we've always gotten along. And that's the beautiful part. But the problem is that we got along, but my mother used that comparison tool to almost like put a wedge between us. Like, it wasn't that I didn't like my sister. It was just that my mom compared us so much so that that forced me to not like certain things about her because those were the things that my mom was using as a tool. And one of the jokes that I share, like I have the albums here somewhere. It's on this shelf right here. It looks like a photo album,
Mhm.
but if you open it up, it's like my mom has like my kindergarten, my sister's kindergarten report card, my report card, and my brother's report. Like she would compare the year all the way through like high school. Like she would, well, your sister got an A in this, and she had the same teacher that you did. Why can't you do th-" And it was like, oh my, are you serious right now? And that made me resent my sister for wanting to do good with her life. Like my sister was like magna cum laude, da da da. I'm graduating. Thank you, Lottie, Lottie. Like thank you, Lord. Thank you, Jesus. You know. But my sister, she was on a different track, and not understanding that we were different. Like in that time period, I think that people kind of said that if kids were all under the same roof, that they should all have the same motivation, the same temperament, all of those things, but each person is different. And I was always labeled the difficult one. I
Mhm.
was always labeled the you just don't know what's gonna come out of her mouth. You just don't know. Like if anybody was gonna get talked to before we went anywhere, it was gonna be me. Like I would be the one sitting in the car. Like my sister and my little brother, they be gone in. I'm the one in the back seat. Look, little girl, we get up in here. Don't touch nothing. Don't say nothing. Don't do like, oh my god. And that's where like my siblings and I we got along up until that place where I felt cornered, like I was being compared to and then my baby brother, he was the baby, he was the only son, so he was golden, you know. And so as far as like having a problem with my siblings per se, I did not have a problem with them. I had a problem with the perception that like my mother and father, like the my aunts and stuff had as it related to us. If that makes sense. I don't know. Can you hear me, Erica? Is she frozen? Can y'all hear me? I don't. Here we go again. This is a repeat from last week. I don't know if y'all can hear me in the chat. Just put it in the chat that you can hear me, and if not, then I'm frozen. You can hear me. Okay, Erica froze. So we'll Okay, so we will. Here we go. So here we go again. Okay, here we go. I said, here we go again, Lord Jesus. See,
Right
you
when it get good,
you
Lord.
you be freeing people. The enemy's like, nope.
But we gonna keep on freeing people because I'm telling you, we're gonna get this done. My, are
Oh
we
my goodness.
back? Let me see, because I think I'm frozen.
Yeah, you froze. You good now? Can you hear me?
I can
Oh,
hear you and see.
okay.
Okay, we back now. Okay, I had to just go back and look.
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah. So I don't know if you understood my yeah. So that
I
was
did.
yeah.
I
So
did.
that's
So we
where we
were
are.
talking about the
Mhm.
resentment that comes through the comparison.
Mhm.
So I had to understand. Let me try something real quick. Hold on. Okay, I think we can see you. Okay.
Okay.
So I had to understand that my mother had me at 21, had my brother at 40.
Mm.
So if she's a different version of herself.
Mhm.
So she was more financially secure, a lot more wise. She had a lot of other things. So in raising him was completely different. And I
Mhm.
told her that when I said, Mom, I said, you let him get away with stuff you would have knocked me 6 feet up under the ground for. No, I don't. I said, yes, you do. But I had to understand that she's a completely different person. Her tolerance level is different. She don't have the level of stress that she had before. The difficulties that she dealt with were completely different. So with that, you just extend the grace
Mhm.
that's necessary. at that time, because now once you know better, you do better. And when you get an opportunity to do it again, you want to do it a better way the next time.
Mhm.
Now, my children have already told me not to expect no grandchildren no time soon, so I'm just gonna have to wait. I think I got about 10 more years. They told me they're not until they in their 30s. So I'll have to try it again with my grandbabies 10 years from now. But by that time, I'll be a better, even better version of myself
And
being a grandparent.
I think also for me to be brutally honest, and this is my kids, they hate when I say this, but I did not go into marriage wanting to be a parent.
Really?
I said I like making the babies, but I wasn't. They like, oh ma, don't be saying that. I did. I like making the babies, but I didn't really go in with a clear plan of wanting to be a parent. I love my kids. Don't get me wrong. I love them. But you know how some people just go in with a plan. I want to be this mother, this, I want to do this, that. And that's where Mike and I, we laugh because we're both the same in that regard. Because we did not have a clear parenting path. Like that's where we are now. Like you're talking about growing and being a different version of yourself.
Mhm.
We are different. We are not the same people. Like the when we got married, it was like he looked good. I liked him. He like, it was like a lot of just lust. There was a lot of just the physical parts of it. And we happened to get married. We happened to get along. And that's why I think a lot of people miss it because the baby comes, but there's no clear plan for it.
Right.
And if you don't see yourself in the role of a parent,
Mhm.
then that's where I messed up because I didn't see myself in a clear path or a clear role of a parent. So I'm constantly looking outside of myself, trying to figure this thing out.
Mhm.
And that is very difficult when you're
Mhm.
trying to figure it out, plus dealing with the dysfunction, plus, and a lot of those things don't, like you were saying, they don't come until you're placed in that scenario. I
Mhm.
didn't know Mike had really legit daddy issues until he became a daddy.
Mhm.
I wasn't asking that. Those are the things that I think a lot of people don't understand about relationships is understanding what your relationship is based on. And love at the beginning of a relationship is very different than love 20 some years into the relationship.
Okay, see now, this is what we gonna do. See, you don't open up something else. We're not gonna get to that today. We're gonna hold that conversation. Love then and love now. That's gonna be the name of it. Y'all gonna see it. When y'all see love then and love now, y'all need to invite all your friends to get your popcorn. We're gonna really talk about that one. We're not gonna try to open that up tonight because we had our time. We're not. Thank you. Somebody put it in the chat. Love then and love now.
Mm,
It's completely different. Even loving your parents,
mhm,
loving your children, loving
mhm,
yourself. But
mhm.
oh, when we talk about loving our spouse or significant other, after you've learned a couple things and you've been through a couple things and you didn't share a couple things and not shared a couple things, it's a whole different story.
Oh my God.
So I'm
Mm.
gonna give you some time to sit on that one, ma'am. We may have to do a special.
I'm up for the challenge, honey. I got some stuff
I know you do, girl, and
for
I got
you. Oh my God. Mm. Oh my God. Girl, that's gonna be funny. You just let me know when. You know I'm there. I might even bring Mr. Johnson in for this one.
Hey, come on, bring Mr. John. Somebody said they need a 2-hour special. We may have to do this one on a Saturday night.
Yep. That's
Have a nice
it's a
little round table discussion.
totally different ballpark. Totally different ballpark. My
Mhm.
Lord. Mm.
So go ahead and prepare your questions. We're gonna take some Q&A. Somebody said bring the wine.
Mm.
For those who drink it, bring it. We're gonna
Mm.
sit down and we're gonna talk.
I
And
mean, it's
I think it'd be
oh,
good to have some men in the room.
it would definitely. I mean,
Have
it's
some men.
like loving through the illusion,
Ooh, girl, that's a whole nother. Ooh.
loving through the. I mean, because we've discussed like our loving through like our dysfunction, but then on the other side of the dysfunction, the love changes.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like a lot of times the world does such a disservice
Mm-hmm.
in explaining what it is and what it looks like.
Mm-hmm.
And then when reality hits, it's the wildest thing. And it's not textbook.
No, it's
It's
not.
not textbook. You have to put your fingers on the pulse of your relationship.
Mm-hmm.
Mm.
See, broken love is completely different from healed love.
Oh my God.
It's completely different. And it's a different type of love while you're healing.
Hmm.
And see, some people, and I'm going to just give you a little taste. Some people got together. Hold on for 1 second. My child coming in the door. You got to love him anyway. While I'm doing my live, here she come. She's going to stay out there. We almost done. So,
Just tell the crawl. That's how my kids do. They be crawling on the floor like
yeah, she could just walk on in the door. All she got to do is open the door. Here she come. And that's what I love about the doorbell. It's going to let you know who's coming in and coming out. Okay. So, anyway. So, the love,
mm.
a lot of people got together
Oh my God.
because of trauma. Trauma, we talked about lust earlier. You hooked up because of lust. You got together because both of you were wounded.
Mm-hmm.
And then one of you started to get healed, and that person you was with started looking a little different.
Oh my God.
Yeah, we're gonna say that one.
And see, this is the one, girl. This gonna be hot. This time God gave. This was what God gave to me. God says you were the same when you know how you put that white dress on and you walk down the aisle and you feel real. God was like, you the same person that walked in there. Like you act like that gown, like that whole ceremony is gonna cleanse you and it's going like you gonna walk out a new person.
No.
You walk out the same way you walked in if you have not done the work.
Have not done the work.
And that little test and we cheated on our test. I know that's a shame. My mama wanted us to get married in the Catholic Church. So in the Catholic, whoever's Catholic on here, they take this compatibility test.
Mm-hmm.
We at a long table. I'm at one end, and Mike said they put us in the same room. Mike, what you got for number 18? Girl, we done cheated on the.
You're gonna make yourself be marriage appropriate.
We gonna make ourselves be married.
Mm-hmm.
And then we got counseled by a man that has taken a vow not to have sex. We got counseled by someone who's taken a vow of celibacy. So you got to check the source. You got to check like everything. When I look at everything, I was like, we were doomed for disaster. I am so grateful we made it through.
Mm-hmm.
We're gonna help a lot of people. We're gonna help a lot of people.
We are.
Let me know when that one. Don't do it for the next 2 weeks. I can't wait. Wait for me. Wait for me, Erica. Don't
Okay.
do it without me.
That one might have to be sometime in August because
Yeah.
July's
Yep.
almost over.
Yep.
That will be the episode in August. So we're gonna get ready for that.
I'm excited.
So yes. So
Mm-hmm.
you all, we are at our time. Of course, I hope that this was just as good for you as it was for us. Please send me a DM. Contact me.
Don't judge me. Tell your people don't judge me, Erica. Don't judge
Don't
me.
judge. This is a no judgment zone. This is free. This is no judgment. Because see, when you heal, we don't put it on blast for ourselves. So there is no judging. We done been through it all. So y'all contact me if you want to be a part of this conversation. Next week, the week after, and then when we get to love then and love now, that's gonna be a special. We're gonna let that be a special. We greatly appreciate it. Alicia, I love you so much. I thank God for you. Y'all have a good night. And we'll
All
see
right.
you again soon.
See y'all next time.